All right, just getting the picture right. Let's see. This way, this way. Okay, so we're just going to wait a minute for a few people to show up, and then we'll get started on this live stream. I sent out a message this morning saying that I would be here, so in case anybody wanted to come and say hello. Got one person. Good deal. All right. So I guess I'll get started. So, in case you all weren't aware, I was on a podcast a couple weeks ago. It was Dottie the Psychic, and she invited me to speak with her and her audience and to talk about various things. We got into some really good conversations. Hey, there you are, Dottie. Look at that. I was just talking about you. Look at that. And we got into some really good conversations. We talked about energy work, and we talked about the shadow people and attunements and all these other types of things. So I'm going to put a link in the description of this live stream. And it's also, if you don't want to wait for me to cue everything, you can go to my last video and I have that link in the description. So Dottie and I had a good time talking to each other and everything. So check that out. All right. So some other things. In case you all weren't aware, I have a Patreon, and yeah, I'm glad you had fun too. Cool. All right. So with my Patreon, in case those people want extra videos, extra attention from me, private messaging, and various other things, coaching. I did a couple coaching calls this weekend. So in case you all want to take advantage of that, feel free to check out my Patreon. I'll put a link in the description. Also, so the Etsy store, Spirit Attunements. There are a lot of people getting some good results and some good connections with spirits. What's funny is that I was just looking at it today, and Lucifer and Jesus are neck and neck as far as their popularity. It's exactly the same. It's like almost like they're competing for your attention. So um, feel free to get an attunement to either one or some of the other ones. I have around 38 various angels, gods, goddesses, some goetic spirits on there. So check that out. I'll put a link, like I said, in the description. All right. So, also, before I forget, people have been sending me messages on Etsy about these attunements, wanting to know more information and how they work and all that. And there's only so much I can put on the Etsy site itself. So I also have a Facebook group for those people who want to know more information. And I open that up to anybody who wants that. And you can also communicate with the other members. So it's a Facebook group. So you can take advantage of that as well. Okay, so let's get started as far as a review, because I always like to give you all the opportunity to make comments or to talk about the videos that I've just done. And I've done quite a few. So I did in between, I did the review of Bale Cadman's book called The Magic of Saint Expedite. And you know what's interesting is that after I did the video, a couple hours later, Bale Cadman messaged me and thanked me for reviewing his book. So that was pretty cool. So seems like a nice guy, and he's a prolific author. So feel free to check out some of his other books. He has like about 40. So he knows a little bit, possibly even more about a lot of different subjects, which is something I like. When someone can speak about a lot of different topics, it makes for a really good conversation. So I did the Magic of Saint Expedite book of his, and we talked a little bit about the. Well, he talked about the history, of course, of Saint Expedite, which I've covered in a lot of my other videos. I have about 3 or 4 Saint Expedite videos, but he one of the things that's different with him is he goes over some alternative offerings. Or and I don't mean that they're non-traditional, but they're offerings that I haven't really heard or seen published in books about different ways of giving offerings and different things that Saint Expedite would respond to. So I thought that was pretty cool. I also talked about in the other video on Janus, Janus, not Janus the person. There's a lot of those Januses around, but no, Janus, the Roman god of time, the Roman god who has no equivalent in the Greek pantheon, which I think is cool. He's rather unique. He is the god of beginnings, gates, doorways, thresholds, initiations, which is neat because if you were to connect with him, contact him, he probably would be a good source of information if you were developing initiations, or let's say that you had a coven or some other type of metaphysical occult group. Uh, he would be the person to speak with about those types of things. As a side note, I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but have you ever had the experience of walking through, going into a certain room or a certain place, like let's say the grocery store, and as soon as you walk in, you forget what you went there to get? It isn't just getting older. There's something called the threshold effect, which made me think of this with Janus, because I just mentioned the word thresholds. Is that with a lot of people when they go through it, a doorway, it has something to do with space and the way our brain processes things. It's a temporary effect of possibly forgetting what you went in there for. It'll happen right after you go through a doorway. So I saw that actually in kind of a scientific report. But back to Janus. Janus, as a review, he is associated with, that's where the name January came from, the first month of the chronological year, the beginning. Janus, as a god, had no parents. He's considered a primordial being. So a lot of the, when you look at gods and goddesses, they usually have parents, but he did not. So he's kind of unique in that way too. I also, when I was doing some research on him, it said that some people in the ancient Roman rituals would use him in the beginning of their ceremonies because he is the god of beginnings, and they believed that it would facilitate the ease of contacting other spirits and other gods. So Janus might serve you in that respect too. And then finally, I did a video called Learning Discernment with Psychic Perception. So discernment as in, how much of this is me, how much of this is my intuition and psychic abilities, how much of this is spirit contact. And it's something that as you grow, as someone who works in these arts, you get a little bit better at. But it's also something that has to be worked on because there is what's called the signal to noise ratio, which means that there might be, you get a signal of something, but if there is a lot of noise in the background, it's hard to tune into it, to clearly pay attention to it. You might not receive it clearly, and it has a lot to do with interpretation because there is distraction. So be very careful when you're evaluating people who at least present themselves to you as being super psychic and super accurate and all of these different types of things. A lot of times this is more an image than it is about the reality of what's happening. And even the really good ones, if they're being honest with themselves and with the public, will admit that one, that they're human and that they're sometimes wrong. Just that's just part of being part of the this physical existence and having a physical body and having a mind and a brain and everything, which sometimes makes processing errors. That's okay. Um, but it has to do with self-awareness and hope self-awareness and hopefully being kind of honest about that. One of the things that is dangerous when people don't admit that is that if you present yourself a certain way as being 100% correct all the time, then when you're not, which is inevitable, then you can then that makes you look bad, like you are being dishonest and that you are not as powerful as you said you were. So, and that is very dangerous to someone's reputation when they exalt themselves so high. So it's always better to be natural, honest, humble about your abilities and realize that psychics, people who do witchcraft, do occult work, that they are learning too, and there's always more to learn, and that everyone has a limitation of some kind. All right, so what I wanted to talk about today, though, specifically, is goals and magic. And I've mentioned this once or twice before, I think in other videos, but it's really important to have an idea of what you want. And you might say, well, why? Why is it important to set goals in magic? And the easy answer is you need a direction for the energy to go in, or for you to set up steps in order to do that. Well, as the little kids sometimes say, why? Why? Why do you need a direction for the energy to go in? Why can't you just do a spell and keep it kind of cloudy and vague? Well, because without a clear direction, then you won't get what you desire. And maybe the energy doesn't know which direction to go in because you are the magician. Now, someone might say, well, maybe you don't know what you desire in this case. In that case, it might be better to take some time and to be clear, to think about it, be clear about what you want. Because otherwise, you might be very, it would be unclear, and then you might try to do some magic on this nebulous type of thing, and then you'd be disappointed when it doesn't happen. It reminds me of the Lucifer TV show. We're talking about desire. When I said that maybe you don't know what your desire, and he would always come in with these in these episodes and say, what is your secret desire? He would usually try to get a criminal or somebody to reveal something important to him, into the case he was working. So okay, so let's say that you do have an idea of what you want, at least in some form or fashion. So if you might say, well, I want to be loved. Okay, so how's that as a goal? Well, maybe they said that and they did a little working, and then 3 days later, their mother told them that she loves them. Was that the magic working? Was that something that was already set up? So what was wrong with that goal? Well, you said when I want to be loved, the person didn't say they wanted to feel loved. They said they wanted to be loved. So in a way, that's kind of an external goal, I guess. Uh, if it's going to be something external, though, I think it must be something when you're working it. It must be something kind of measurable. It's got to be something that you can determine. Okay, so this really happened. This is what I wanted. One way that you can relate to the external world with your goal for this particular purpose would be to say, okay, I want to be involved in a romantic relationship. It's my desire to do that. Is my will to be in a romantic relationship. Okay. You can still break that down even further with maybe some specifics, but that would be something. You want to be specific though. So we're using the person who said that they want someone to love them. So what kind of love? They didn't specify. They didn't specify whether it was a mother's love or a lover's love or some other type of thing or friendship love. It could be all of those things, whatever was in the person's mind, but they need an idea of that. Another thing that people do is they'll say, when they're not specific, I want to be prosperous. I want to be abundant. I want to have an abundant life. Now, prosperity and abundance are very vague terms. They mean different things to different people. It's not that isn't very specific. Now, if you want to leave it at that, that's fine. Some people don't want to break it down, but if you wanted to do that, you could say, it's my will to make an extra $200 a month with my side projects. And if you had multiple side projects, you can say with X, Y, and Z, or to maybe one of them. Otherwise, if you're doing magic and you say, it's my will to be prosperous, then maybe if somebody gives you, if you ask for a friend to give you $10 and they give it to you, then I guess that would qualify. You see, you can think about prosperity in so many different ways, that it's hard to kind of look at it that way. And the last thing I want to say is, when you're doing magic and you set your goal, that what you do is very important. What you do in the real world. If you are somebody who wants prosperity and abundance and you laid out what that would look like, it's important that you do the same sort of actions that maybe other people would do to make that happen. Difference is that if you do the magic and it works, is that those actions will be much more powerful. They will have much more of an impact because the magic is going to attach, it has to concretize in the physical world. And by you putting forth the effort, your effort with that magic together will have much more power than, let's say, the person who's doing those things, the same things you're doing, and they're not doing magic. So, I have a couple people on here. Does anybody have any questions about the videos that I mentioned or setting goals for magic? Okay. Well, I'm going to be having, of course, more videos come down the line. If anybody, and it could be the two people that are here, or people that see this video later. I'm always open for ideas about new videos that I could present. I also would like to know whether what you think about the book reviews, because the review I did of the Saint Expedite book was my first one. So if you would think that that would be valuable, I'd like to hear from you on that. Maybe leave a comment. I'm thinking about doing another one from Bale Cadman on the Lilith book. He did a pretty good Lilith book. Lilith is very popular. And why shouldn't she be? All right, folks. So I know this one is a little short, but I am, again, I'm going to be providing more videos in the near future. I'm putting out more attunements each week. So I'm going to put links in the description that I mentioned with Patreon, with the Etsy store, and the Facebook group in case you all want to be a part of that or participate in that and find out more about attunements and energy work and all that. All right, well, I am going to see you all in a future video, and I hope that you all have a great weekend and take care of yourselves. See you later. Bye-bye.